Hi, and welcome back to another episode. This is going to be a little bit more ranty than normal because, one, I am very adamant about people getting paid for the work that they're doing. And there is a big misconception, I'll call it, I feel, in society where we justify paying people less because we're literally saying that their labor is worth less because the skill they say is not there in that job. And so they deserve the minimum amount of money. And I'm just going to try to look at this from another aspect that I don't hear being talked about enough when we bring up the infamous $15 an hour and the small businesses who may not be able to afford it. Because I certainly sympathize with that reality that I think many businesses are going to have to deal with. And if that's why you clicked on this headline today, please keep listening. My name's KT, and this is Simple Living with KT, the place where we talk about the issues facing our lives in a simple and mindful way. If you are watching on YouTube, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you can see notifications on when I post next. Every week, I post videos on personal finance as well as living a simple and mindful life. I believe I sound very calm, cool, and collected right now, even though I called this video a rant. I don't know where this will lead me, but I wanted to give that disclaimer that it's not quite going to be like a normal video where I'm just teaching something or sharing an experience and giving information. I will be doing all of those things in this video, but it is going to be a very biased perspective from yours truly. So this all starts when I watched a video clip from a small business owner, and he was commenting on the realities of paying $15 an hour for minimum wage for the employees at his company. He works in a restaurant, and he gave some numbers, which I want to say are fully true, but if they are true, I feel like I'm just not doing math well. The first numbers that he shared was that the servers that are working full time can be making about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. The part that really got me though was that the people who worked in the kitchen, so that could be the cooks, the dishwashers, those staff make between $10 to $12 an hour. And then he states that with overtime though, his full-time employees are making about $40,000 a year. $40,000 a year, I will say that's not money to scoff at. If you take that $40,000 and you look at a married couple who are both pulling in that money, that right there is $80,000 for the entire household. And I would argue that if you figure out affordable daycare or have someone to help out with potentially kids for that couple, you could live a relatively comfortable middle class life. I think that is what the owner wanted us to draw from that information. $40,000 as a dishwasher, like I'm in the wrong business. But I had to take a step back and I was thinking, how many hours of overtime does that dishwasher need to work in order to make this $40,000 a year? And it could be a dishwasher and it could be the cook in the kitchen as well. I just doesn't matter, but that's what they call it back of house for a restaurant. That's what his back of house hourly non-tipped staff receive. Doing the math, and we're just going to assume that they're all making $12 an hour, the max of what he mentioned. So overtime, you'd get $18 an hour, which also is good. You'd have to work an extra 18 hours every single week for 50 out of the 52 weeks of the year in order to hit that $40,000. So that means that's 58 hours. every single week. That's almost 20 hours of overtime. That is perhaps 7 days a week of working, or perhaps that's, only 5 12-hour days on your feet doing hard work in the heat. Many people in the comment section, and perhaps many people in this video as well, may say they have a run of the mill skill that is not valued by the, economy, society, the, invisible hand, and that's why they get paid less. The point of view that I'd like to walk through with you, this is something that I think about because when I was growing up and I feel like I learned about business and had, my sister and her husband at the time, they had their business, they were doing big things. And I see other people who are doing amazing things with their business. And, myself, when I think about different ways that I could, perhaps have my own business and have employees, I stop for a second and I think about the responsibility of having employees. That is, for me, the freedom to step away a little bit from the day to day of the business. On one side, that's the completely selfish, side for me. And then there's the I now have someone who I am entrusting partially with my life's work to make sure it runs from day to day. So that could be the manager, that could be the key holder in the front, whatever it is. And I just could not think it would be right for me to hire someone and put them in this role that for me actually means a whole lot. It means a lot to be able to step away. It means a lot to be able to have that peace of mind. It means a lot to have that freedom and in turn have someone else doing that day to day. So it's just really hard for me to think about being in that place and thinking I am going to find the person with the quote least skills that I can pay the least amount of money, even if they need to work 60 hours a week just to make a living. That does not seem like a world or society that is trying to help the community where these businesses are actually in. And of course, some places in small cities, I've looked at rent in small cities and seen places where it's like 2 bedrooms for $825. Maybe not now in this market, but that was perhaps from a couple of years ago. But still, if the rent is so low and, it's just a small little city, there's not much going on, $10 an hour could go very far. For me, that is where I perhaps see the more unfairness when we talk about that $15 an hour in those types of locations, because those are the types of places where Walmart will be ready and able to take all the business that's available. Bring in the Targets, bring in the Walmarts, bring in the Rosses, bring in any other company, Amazon facilities that will deliver in 2 days to these more rural locations. They are going to be ready for that opportunity. And these businesses who sometimes I do think there is an aspect of not thinking ahead into what can they do to bring their rural business online to be able to service more people out of their area, to understand shipping at least to a wider radius around where they live? Because the flip side is now society is pushing and begging and pleading and protesting for progress as far as income increases to be made. And these companies are sometimes in the same place they've been for the past 5 or 10 years. Something to note, particularly about the video that I mentioned, that restaurant owner was in a relatively large city, actually, the largest city in Florida, at least as of, today. When I say, $10 can go far in a very rural location, that's not what that particular gentleman is referring to because he's not in one of those really rural locations. I don't think he's trying to pass it off as that. I do think his business will face, let's say repercussions from having an increase of wages across the board. I just also think this is something that has been coming for so many years that I think it's interesting that honestly companies have not been getting prepared. Maybe they did not think we'd get so close to really increasing the, federal minimum wage or even the wages in particular states to increase to $15. Now we're fully at that time where it has to be addressed. I've always heard different entrepreneurs say online that if your business isn't growing, then it's dying. If you made $100,000 last year and then this year you also make $100,000, your business is on the decline. There's no such thing as even. It's either you're going up or you're going down. And with inflation and with the idea should be to grow your business every single year. If you're not increasing, then that is a negative thing. I feel like this is the situation that happens when businesses, unfortunately, small business owners, do not realize this little item. They've perhaps already been in the past or moving slower or reluctant to make changes that would be able to increase the amount of money they're making. And now, when outside forces are affecting them, they're not able to deal with it. And I know there's plenty of restaurant managers and owners who spend countless hours, day and night, 7 days a week in their restaurant, and that is what they live for and that is what they love. I just can't get to the level of understanding of having people who really do rely on your business and who need that, extra 18 hours a week of overtime to make $40,000 a year and think that is the type of, I would say, legacy that you'd want to leave on your restaurant. I think that's kind of the messy side of the restaurant business that many of us don't really dive into, and also perhaps are just unsympathetic to when I see things about, well, it's the minimum skill, so they get the minimum wage, and this amount of money is not meant to be able to cover someone's entire way of life. Once again, we're past it because countless times over and over again, I don't know about you, but I'm not blind and I see that it's not just young people who are entering these jobs when they're fresh out of high school. I honestly don't think I've worked in a couple of restaurants. I don't think I've ever seen like a high school student in the kitchen of a restaurant that I've worked in. And sure, you could say the thing about people having ambition and getting more skills. You can say that, and I would say, what about the training that is available in our society to get these people to other jobs, especially if they're entering these jobs with many times no support and they're already working, 58, basically 60 hours a week, every single week with very unrelenting schedules because restaurants are very demanding. How are they supposed to get into that mindset to have time to do some type of training to, increase their actual skills? There is a part of me that thinks that companies do want a level of reliance on the company from their employees. There was something my husband shared. He saw a post on Reddit, and it said that when that Redditor told his boss that he had gotten out of debt, his boss was like, "Oh no, that's terrible. People who have no debt don't work." And I think that's very interesting, even though he's probably kidding, boss saying his boss jokes that we're all supposed to laugh at. So he's probably just kidding. What I think is telling, though, about it is that debt is not generally positive. It is something that is always a reminder of money that you have lost all potential for because you're still paying off past stuff that you no longer need, or that you need it, but you're just paying for it for a really long time plus literal interest. And that debt causes, of course, you to feel uncomfortable, but just motivates you to be like, okay, I need to keep this job. I need to do well so the boss likes me and I maybe get that performance increase. That's really just an inflation increase to keep up with the minimum standards of inflation. And really, this is why it's so important to take control of your money and your finances now rather than wait until some magical moment happens or when the stars align. Because the sooner you get control of your finances and you make a plan and you stick to it and you meet those goals that you set, the sooner you'll be able to reach some level of financial freedom. And that is something we talk about a lot on this channel. So, of course, I would love to hear your thoughts on a $15 minimum wage. Also, you can visit www.ktsterlin.com, or if you're on YouTube, click the link in the description for Abundance in a Budget. That is my course that helps get your budgeting mindset in line with your behaviors to make changes to reach financial freedom and financial stability. That was a lot, so thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one. And until then, be sure to make the decisions that support the life you want. Bye for now.